It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant Pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Hi, everybody, and happy Wednesday, right? Yes, welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk, joined by Paul Dottino. We're taking your calls at 201-939-4513. You can also, we're streaming on YouTube as usual. You can comment there or send us in tweets at hashtag Giants Chat. We'll check those out as the show continues along. Paul Dottino, how are you?
Doing all right, John, but it is a wet Wednesday, to use the alliterations of the W's. It's supposed to be some nasty flooding going on later on today, so I'm glad that we get it out of the way as opposed to tomorrow when we get the preseason finale right across the parking lot.
Yeah, the remnants of Hurricane Erin, apparently, is what's hitting us right now. Luckily, we are dry here in the Hackensack Burning Health podcast studio. Keep getting better. So, final preseason game, Paul.
Indeed.
Brian Dable has been usually close-lipped about who's going to play and who's not. But if you go through history with what he's done since he's been here, now again, he has changed things up this year, so maybe he'll change things up again. We don't know. But if history is an indicator, we're probably not going to see the main players on this team play much or if at all on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think that's very logical, John, because he has a strong proclivity not to want to play the regulars during the preseason. He has changed that a bit during games 1 and 2. But, you know, the Giants finally got healthy. Yesterday was the first time that they actually had everybody out there doing something, even if it was only with the trainers. Like Tay Banks was doing some stuff with the trainers on the side. But this was the first time that none of the Giants were held inside for practice. And regardless of the varying degrees of participation, he had the full 90 out there for the first time all summer. So for me, John, I think he's going to say no sense in whistling past the graveyard. Don't push your luck, and you probably will be conservative.
Yeah, the most important thing about every preseason fall is keeping everyone healthy. The Giants have been fortunate in that they haven't really suffered any long-term season-ending type of injuries except to Bryce Ford-Wheaton over the course of the summer.
Yeah, that was a shame, too.
It was, but given what other teams have had to deal with in many years, though I feel like even going around the league, Paul, there have not been any major players that have really gone down. We had Jalen McMillan, who just got hurt for Tampa Bay with that neck injury. He's going to be out a while.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think, otherwise around the league, Paul, there aren't really any other guys that were going to be major contributors that have new injuries that are not going to play for a while. Tristan Wirfs, but that was like back in the spring.
Correct.
Tyler Guyton, but he could be back first couple weeks.
Right. There
haven't been that many really big-time injuries that have really crippled teams, which, by the way, is a good thing.
Oh, sure. I think the bigger stories are the hold-ins of Micah Parsons and the holdout of Terry McLaurin. Right?
Well, he's holding in too.
That's right. He is in. He is in. He's in, but he's out.
The holdout would be Trey Hendrickson.
Yes, Hendrickson.
Yes.
Yes, I was going to get to him as the third guy, but the two guys in the division are more important, obviously, to the Giants situation.
Oh, especially since they play them weeks 1 and 2.
No doubt. But those, to me, have been the bigger personnel stories than injuries.
Absolutely. All right, so
at Stafford too. Don't leave out Matt Stafford's back.
Yeah, he seems to be out there though, and they seem to think he's going to be okay.
He is back at practice as of yesterday.
So now let's talk about this a little bit here, Paulie. This game has a lot less to do with your best players getting work. It has more to do with figuring out the last, 5, 6, 7 guys on your roster. So I guess I've kind of put together the guys that I feel really good about being on at this point.
Right.
I don't know how much of this exercise you've gone through so far.
I haven't done a detailed go-through. I did one last week before the Jets game.
All right, I think that's fair enough.
And then I kind of backed off a little because I do think, in my mind, John.
How many spots do you think are kind of up for grabs? That's where I was kind of going.
I think there could be as many as 5 right now that I'm really kind of wrestling with. It could be A or B. And then there's always that possibility of a cross-positional spot that you got to figure out. I personally believe, how about I go this way?
I think it could be as much as 6.
Okay.
Maybe 7.
I don't have a problem with that. But I'm going to go reverse for 1 second.
Yeah, please, reverse me.
Let me ask you this. Aside from the exercise of who you think the first 53 are going to be, I feel really strongly that they're going to pick up a cornerback before opening day.
That would not surprise me, especially given we don't know if Trey Hawkins has been hurt. We don't know what his status is going to be.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think the other spot that's got me a little bit tenuous, if they think they can get an upgrade at defensive tackle from whoever the back-end depth chart guy is, that wouldn't shock me either.
I think fourth safety, too, could be a spot to keep an eye on.
I don't think that's out of the question. I don't think that's out of the question either. So that to me, I'm almost more interested in the following day's waiver claims and turnover than I am the actual first 53, because I think those are some significant depth chart weaknesses right now that concern me.
All right, so here are the spots that I would pay attention to if I'm Giant fans, right?
Yeah.
On Thursday night, when you get to the second half, and it's a bunch of guys that your casual fan probably has never heard of, and you're trying to... I'm being fair.
You're right.
Casual fans, but that watch and listen to this show, obviously you know who these guys are.
Sure.
But these are the spots I keep an eye on, all right? Kick returner.
Sure.
/ punt returner. Who's the guy that's going to be in that spot? And because he helped himself by doing other things, but I think most importantly, I will do the old, Phil McConkey deal where you got to make sure you control the ball. So
Sure.
Can you find who's the returner that you trust most to make the right decisions on these kicks and punts and not make critical mistakes to hurt your team? And the two guys with the most experience in that regard are Amir Smith-Marset and Gunnar Olszewski. So to me, and that's going to be one of your wide receivers then too, that's one of the spots that I think, maybe the coaches have this decision made already. I don't know the answer to that, but I don't know for sure which one of those guys it's going to be. So that's one of the spots I'll be watching on Thursday night.
I'm going to ask you, how curious were you that D. Williams got a lot of return action last week? Because I'm with you. I think it's Olszewski versus Smith-Marset, and yet then all of a sudden Williams starts getting a bunch of reps back there, and it wouldn't surprise me if he gets a bunch of reps again tomorrow. Are they trying to potentially give him a better shot to get into that mix and maybe try to steal a job?
I think they're trying to figure, well, this goes to my next one, or another one that I have on my list, who the last cornerback's going to be. So I think you're figuring out who that last cornerback is, and you're like, well, how much can that corner help on special teams? And two guys, Art Green and Nick Jones, have been really critical and highly used in terms of volume.
Yes.
Special teams players in the preseason so far. Art Green more of an outside corner, Nick Jones more of a slot.
Yes.
Nick Jones is probably, in my opinion, a little bit more of a physical player than Green is. I think those two guys, they're trying to figure out who that last cornerback on is. And again, you talk about D. Williams being a returner. Could that give him some help there as a guy that can help on special teams? So I think that's part of that process.
I concur. I think that Art Green, in my mind, and you're right, he's more of a boundary guy. He has a little bit more length. And I think that even though Jones has made some plays here during training camp, Art Green, I think, has been, we saw him last year do some special team stuff, and he was pretty good in the kick coverage. I also think that he's made some plays during training camp, and I think he does close on the ball better and does tend to get his hands on the ball a little bit more often than Jones does.
I think Jones is probably better around the line of scrimmage.
I would concur with that. And that's also why, being a slot guy, that plays more into his deal.
Do you think either Gunnar or Amir Smith-Marset will be on the final roster? Or the initial 53?
I do.
I agree. Okay. The other thing I'm keeping an eye on. Now, Cam Scadaboo was at a practice yesterday.
He was.
So we'll see if he plays in the game. It's a quick turnaround, but they might want to try to get him some game work. He hasn't done anything yet in a preseason game.
Yeah.
We'll see about that. I don't know what they're going to do with him. Do you keep the fourth running back, or do you keep the fourth tight end, or do you figure out a way to keep both? And I think, obviously, Dante Miller would be the running back. That would be the fourth guy on. He's worked as a vice player, and he's worked as a gunner on special teams, and he's been on kick coverage as well. And on the other hand, Fedoni and Dulcich are kind of two cars trying to fill the same lane. as your long, lanky receiving tight end.
Yes.
There's no way you can keep both.
No.
Which guy do you think the team would be more apt to keep? I don't know. Can you keep the fourth tight end and the fourth running back? I think it starts getting crowded at that point. So that's another spot where I think there's some questions for me in terms of how I'll build out the final, my final roster.
And there's crossover with positions.
Right.
Okay. I'm definitely keeping Turbo Miller. I said this on the post game the other night when we were on with Tiki Barber. I said he's on my 53. If it's my call, I'm going 4 running backs and only 3 tight ends. And I'll take a chance that Dulcich and or Fedoni wind up getting through, and I'll bring them back to the practice squad gladly. Again, also I'm curious, once this game is played tomorrow, again, you never know if guys get a little bit nicked up and all of a sudden they become an injury reserve candidate as well. But the truth of the matter is, for me, there's no way you can keep 4 tight ends if you keep 4 running backs. I think it's a 4 and a 3 split, one way or the other.
It gets hard. I agree with you.
So I'm keeping Turbo Miller.
All right, wide receiver. I don't think you get the 6 wide receivers. I just don't know you have room for that, to be honest with you.
Depends on are you going to go 10 offensive linemen.
So let's talk about those together then. I agree with you. We know who the top 3 wide receivers are. We talked about one of the other wide receivers being one of the return guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Jalen Hyatt, who has had a quiet summer, had a loud spring. He's been dealing with some injuries, but he's been back recently. He had a catch last week in that game. He didn't play a ton of snaps in that game, but he did have that one catch. Now, again, they like to work the guys in slowly after they've missed some time. So we'll see how. My bet is that he'll play a lot more this week. We'll see.
Could be a big game for him.
It could be a very important game for him. To me, the other wide receiver that I think has done enough over the course of camp is little Jordan Humphrey. Now, he is not a special teams guy, which is an issue, but he's unique body size-wise, 6'3", almost 230. He's caught everything that's been thrown to him. Yes. I think he's had some pretty good chemistry with Jackson Dart. He's had some pretty good chemistry with Jameis Winston when he's out there with him. And I think he's done enough to be on the team. You've got like Zach Pascal. He's the other big receiver, right?
Yeah.
He plays special teams. He does kick coverage.
He does.
Then you have all the undrafted rookie free agent wide receivers as well. So that's another spot where I think you're trying to figure out who the last couple guys are on, if it's 1, if it's 2, and kind of how that works.
Well, see, one of the things in this equation that often people forget about is the possibility that the guy will be desirable to someone else, even though, as you have often said on your own, he's a latecomer to the system.
I think that's more important for quarterback, but it can apply to other positions too.
Mm-hmm. It can. And quite frankly, when you're looking at a veteran like little Jordan Humphrey, he was a free agent. He was out there, a street free agent. I don't believe he attracted any interest at all. The Giants decided they wanted to take a look at him. They signed him. They brought him in. Just so happens that he and Russell Wilson were teammates in Denver, and Russ really likes him a lot. And I get that. But I don't think he's going to get claimed if you put him out there. So I think there's a really good chance he comes back to the practice
squad. Especially considering how deep the wide receiver position is around the league. There are a lot of good wide receivers out there.
Now, on the other hand, if you really like one of these young, rookie, undrafted wide receivers, and you know who the names are, I'm not going to put them in order, but if you really like those guys, and there's one guy in particular that you really want, well, again, there might be a better chance that that guy would get claimed than little Jordan Humphrey, who I don't think is going to draw any claiming interest at all.
And it's funny, you almost don't want those guys to blow up and have a big third preseason game.
Yes.
Because then it becomes less likely, or it becomes more likely that they might get claimed if he comes out and has like 130 receiving yards and a couple of touchdowns.
That is true. So,
a la Victor Cruz, where the Giants had to keep him, otherwise he would
without
have been
a doubt.
by the Jets.
Rex Ryan practically told the world we're going to grab this guy if he gets caught. So I think, that in some small part has to be a slice of your equation when you're making these decisions. I'll give you another good example because we said we're going to go with the offensive line and wide receiver numbers.
And I think whether you keep 10 or not offensive line is a question.
Right. And when you look at the Slotmans of the world, who in my Morrissey and some of these other backup linemen who are trying to fight Forsythe, they're trying to fight for a spot. Stinney. I mean, honestly, what's the odds that any of those guys get claimed. Now, Stinnie played on a Super Bowl team with Tampa.
I would say a guy like Forsythe, who's started 20-plus games at offensive tackle in the league, and you know how shallow offensive tackle positions are
they're
around
hard to
the
come
league.
by.
Yeah.
So maybe the chance that either a Stinnie or a Forsythe might get claimed does have to be part of your mathematical equation. Maybe it does. I don't think a guy like Schlotman's going to get claimed. I'm sorry, no disrespect. I don't think Kubas is going to get claimed.
I agree with that.
You know, you'll be able to get those back on the practice squad, I would think, undoubtedly. So you would think nothing of setting them free and bringing them back on Wednesday.
I'm with you. I think that's fair, though. I think, and I haven't looked every year, but it has been 10 offensive linemen more often than 9 over the course of Brian Dable's tenure here.
I know.
So we'll see how he decides to go there. All right, defensively. Back end of the interior defensive line, you kind of mentioned this in terms of maybe claiming somebody.
Yeah.
Once you get past Dexter, Nacho, Robertson, Harris, and Darius Alexander, maybe Elijah Chapman, maybe DJ Davidson, Jordan Riley if you want a nose guard. I don't know if any of those guys have jumped out enough. I think probably of that group, Chapman and Davidson have probably flashed the most at different points during camp.
Sure.
And they have used Chapman at fullback a little bit. So that I'm keeping an eye on that, Paul. And then your final linebacker, right? I think, Okereke, McFadden, Muasau, and Chris Board are going to be on the roster.
Correct.
Then you have a veteran like Demetrius Flanagan-Foles.
Special teams guy.
Right, but he hasn't done a ton in the summer because of injury.
Not been available.
And then you have Deontay Johnson, who I know they have really high hopes for. He's a really physical, athletic guy that checks those boxes. Missed all of last year with a knee injury. Came back at the end of the year. He plays special teams as well, though he's not accomplished as Flanagan-Foles is.
Correct.
That, to me, is another spot I'll keep an eye on.
I agree with you. I like the way Deontay Johnson hits people.
I like the way he runs. He carried a wide receiver down the seam one play during training camp.
He did. More physical. Even though he is very athletic and fits today's athletic prototype of what you want your inside linebackers to be, he plays a little bit more like some of the throwback linebackers who used to plug the run some years ago. He has like this hybrid kind of style, the way he plays. I favor him. Again, you're right. Coming off that serious knee injury last year, they probably would tell you what his GPSs are and what his testing is. As long as that stuff shows that he's back to where he was, I've seen enough out of him that I think I'd give him the edge.
I mean, he's missed no time. He's been completely healthy this spring and summer, so which has been good. And then we talked about the cornerback and safety spot, too. We don't have to go there again.
Right.
Is there a fifth edge on the team? You Burns, Thibodeau, Golston, Abdul Carter, obviously. And then you have Tom Fox, and you have Trace Ford. Ford, to me, has popped enough as a pass rusher for me that he intrigues me. I think he can develop into a special teamer. He was a productive player in college. To me, Trace Ford is a guy that I think would be someone that I think has a shot to squeeze his way on here.
I kind of think both guys are very similar in that Fox was Ford before Ford, and Ford is Fox 2.0. I think they're very similar players in an awful lot of ways. Fox has been here for a couple of years. He's a good guy, good teammate, does everything he's asked, has had some very small flashes over the course of time. But now Ford's the young guy and the new kid on the block, and maybe it's time to give him a chance.
Yeah. Anything else that you think fans should keep an eye on in this game? I'm curious, do you think Mike Kafka will be upstairs or downstairs? That's another thing I'll keep an eye on, too.
I think Mike will be downstairs.
Is that what you think he's going to be for the whole season, too?
I think unless something dreadfully goes wrong and they have some really bad communication blow-ups and something, is awry, I think it will be that way for the season. I do.
Has Tierney been upstairs, or has he been on the? He's been on the sideline too. So all of them have been,
which surprised me. We talked about this, how we thought Tierney would be upstairs, and he hasn't been. I was down on the sideline for the game this past week, and Tierney was down there too, which really surprised me a lot. But in any event, there is one other item that I'm kind of curious about. Graham Gano has kicked extremely well this offseason. And even in the training camp.
And he's been healthy, most importantly.
And he's been healthy. So I think he has solidified any questions that people might have had about his age, his injuries, his cap number. I think he's the guy. So for me, McAtamney can still be the international exemption as player 17 on the practice squad. I'd be curious to see how much he kicks tomorrow, like he did all the kicks the other night against the Jets. I'd like to see him continue to kick well because I don't think he'll get claimed, and I would like to see the Giants bring him back.
All right, let's get to the phones at 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Just a reminder, the Giants Foundation will host a 5K racing kids run presented by Quest on Sunday, October 26th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt. After the race, stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. The Giants Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. All right, let's take some calls. We got 2 people on the line, open lines as well, so get in, get on hold. We'll get to you over the next 45 minutes or so. Kevin in North Carolina will lead us off, then David in Michigan's up next. Kevin, what's up?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear, Kevin. What do you got?
Hey, so I just have 1 point and 2 quick questions.
Sure.
My first point is, out of the first 6 games we got in the regular season here, we have 3 division games out of the first 6 games, which is very brutal, but, it's pivotal, that this team gets off to a fast start, especially in the division, or, it could get ugly pretty quick. So that's just my first point I wanted to make. And then 2 quick questions that I had for you guys is, one question I had was, if it was up to you guys, would you extend McFadden and Wan'Dale Robinson now, or would you guys wait to see how their regular season goes to extend them to a future contract?
Good question, Kevin. I think probably based on how they've played, it all depends on the number, right? I mean, it depends on what they're looking for. I'm sure those guys would both, rather than taking a discount on an extension now, would want to go play out the year and see how well they play to get more. Yeah. I think probably at the moment, Paul, I would feel better about paying McFadden, I think, than Wan'Dale, though both guys have been pretty reliable, though McFadden's been healthier than Robinson has, which is why I would probably feel a little bit better about that. But look, I think both guys are good guys, they're good players, but to me, that is more of a after the season type of deal than it would be a during the season type of deal.
Yeah, I don't think Joe Shane would be adverse to trying to do something in the middle of the season with either one of those guys. That's my suspicion.
Well, depending on how the season goes,
depending upon how the season goes. But it's really more of a question, caller. It's more of a question of what do the players want to do.
Yeah.
Because Joe may have in his mind that he's got a calendar set up for, okay, I'd like to talk to these guys, and this is the ballpark number we'd like to talk about. Well, if the player, in all honesty, as John mentioned a minute ago, if he wants to gamble on himself to have another really good season, and by the way, I know Robinson's average yards per catch is not nearly what you want it to be. He did catch over 90 balls. So he's got to be saying to himself, I'm ready to have a really productive season, and I can't wait till my agent goes into that room and starts talking about those numbers. And McFadden has had improvement every year he's been a Giant. So he's going to be saying, I'm going to do better this year than I've ever done before, and I want my agent to go in there with a nice number because I'm going to have my best season ever. So how do you know that those guys even want to come to the table? I'm just saying.
Right. And then my second question I had before I go here is, we know Brian Burns is, not going to get off the field, but in terms of Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau, especially in the early on in the season, do you think we'll see more of Kayvon, in the beginning of the games more? Or do you think we'll see more of Carter in the game and then they'll, kind of play 50-50 or, have those packages where, they'll all be all on the field at the same time? What do you guys think about that?
Kevin, I think you'll see Kayvon more on early downs. You'll see Carter more in pass rushing situations. And I think you will see all three on the field at the same time. And remember, even though you say Burns is not going to leave the field, he's still only going to play 80% of the snaps.
Right.
Maybe 75. So I think you're going to see him off the field in some of those situations too, just because defensive players that play up front are always going to play in a bit of a rotation. They're never going to play all the snaps. So I do think you're going to see, Carter get some of his snaps while Burns is on the bench, to be honest with you. So I would just keep that in mind moving forward as well. But I would say early on in the year, Paul, I think Thibodeau more on early downs, Carter more in pass rush situations on third and long, second and long, and then we'll see how it plays out over the course of the year.
Yeah, I'm not as sure that it'll be in situations as much as it's going to be matchups.
I think
You know what I mean?
I think they want Carter on the field on 2nd and 3rd and long.
Oh,
every time.
I would be confident in that too. But in terms of first downs, I don't know. There may be certain matchups where they think they need to do some other mixture than just having Thibodeau out there all the time.
I'm not saying all the time. I'm
Okay.
just saying, look at it this way. Is it more likely that Thibodeau or Carter is out there on 1st and 10?
More likely Tibbs.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I will say Charlie Bullen, you were there yesterday. You heard what Charlie said.
I was actually not listening to Charlie. I was with somebody else while
Okay,
Charlie was talking.
Charlie Bullen, who coaches the Giants' edge rushers, he said particularly because, of course, the writers were asking about how are you going to balance the 3-guy snaps. And he goes, well, to be honest with you, both Brian and Kayvon know that they're both going to have times when they're going to have to sit. But he said, while none of those guys, neither one of those guys, wants to come off the field because they always want to play. They always want to play. He goes, trust me, they don't want to lose snaps. He said, I think both guys understand that it will benefit them and they'll be able to play at a higher level if we give both of them a rest.
I talked to Burns in June, Kevin, and he told me straight up that he feels fresher at the end of games when he's only playing, say, 75% of the snaps versus 90%. So
See, they get it.
I think they will be open to sitting down to me. And by the way, throw Chauncey Golston into the mix too. He is going to play snaps.
Yes, he will.
They have to find room
Right.
for him too.
Yeah, no, I think it's pivotal that they have a good rotation going, to give these guys some rest, and then especially at the end of the game in the fourth quarter when it counts to kind of have those fresh legs, to try to get after the quarterback. But thank you guys for taking my call.
I appreciate it, man. Good stuff. Let's go to a couple YouTube comments here. We'll start as we playing tomorrow night from Xavier Spear. We don't know Xavier, but again, if history is an indication, probably less likely than not.
Yeah.
But Brian Dable has not said that straight away. Michael Perugine. This question is for Paulie D. Do you refer to JMS as being undersized because of his strength quotient or his size? Because he's listed at 320, and that's not undersized for a center.
All right, first of all, yeah, when you look at his physical frame, he is a bit undersized. Now, he has gained weight. He has gained some thickness. And according to Carmen Brasillo, and I asked Carmen about this very specifically yesterday because of the conversation we've had on the program. And Carmen said that JMS has gotten stronger. Now, is his power quotient where it needs to be? I can't tell you the answer to that yet because we're going to have to see in regular season games.
And he has put on weight. At the combine, he weighed in at 301
Correct.
pounds. So he was put
barely
on
300.
So
Barely.
he has put on 20 pounds of muscle since he's been here. So
Yep.
I think when we talk about him being undersized, Michael, we were talking about when he was drafted. He's put on weight since then. So you're right. 320 for a center is good size. He's thicker than he was when he got here. But again, you have to see that size turn into utility on the field, right? Whether it's holding up with an anchor, whether it's pushing people in the run game with power, that's where it has to show up.
In short, it's got to be good weight. It can't be 320 that's not a legit, solid, beefy, strong, powerful. If it's that 320, that's legit. If it's 320 that's kind of soft and it's just excess poundage, that's not good. So let's see. But Carmen Brasillo did insist to me that JMS has gotten stronger. I just don't know if it's to the point where he's going to be as effective as you want. I just don't know that.
All right, let's go to David in Michigan. He's up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Then we have some open lines if you guys want to get in at 201-939-4513. David, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys. A little bit of a long time since I called in, but thank you for everything you've been doing this summer.
Cool.
Paulie, I'm wearing the shoes you recommended.
Oh, how about that?
Welcome to the Old Man
you were
Nike
right.
Club, David.
You were right.
Congratulations.
What do you think? What do you think,
Right.
David?
They're excellent. I used to wear them a long time ago, and I just haven't worn them in a while, but I started my walking regime, and they're great.
Yeah, they are. They are. And that's the reason they've been around, by the way. And John is one of the guys who likes to bust my horns about this stuff. But the truth is,
I've tried to get you like different color patterns in it and try to get you expand your horizons a little bit, and I can't get him to do it at all.
But, the Nike Monarchs have been around for a very, very long time. And usually these sneaker companies will change out models and styles every few years. But the Monarchs continue to survive because they're a good shoe.
Yeah, really, and reasonably priced, and offer a lot of support and balance. So.
In fact, I'm about to break out another box this week.
Nike, proud sponsor of the National Football League.
Yes,
David,
they are.
what else do you got?
Hey, a couple of things I'll bang through kind of quickly. One is on the game against the Jets. So we're down at the goal line, and they hand off, I'm pretty sure, to Singletary. And he runs right in to the line. And what mystifies me about plays like this is that there was nothing but fairway to the right of the tight end. And, he hit a hole that was closing up between the guard and the center, I think, or between the tackle and the guard. And I'm watching him do it, and I'm like, dude, just pause and trot into the end zone. I don't understand why running backs, when they have that kind of fairway and nothing but green, they run into the line. I don't get it.
Well, David, sometimes, and I'm not telling you that that's what happened on this play, but there are times when you'll get a tailback who is told, this is where the play is designed to go. Trust your blockers. They'll give you enough of a crease to be there, and you're going to be able to whittle yourself into the end zone. So what is he going to do? He's going to explode at the snap. He's going to charge forward. He's going to take that handoff in rhythm, and he's going to attack that very spot that he was told to attack.
Well, and I think the point, more importantly, Paul, is that you're at the half-yard line. I'm looking at the play right now.
Okay.
And you get the ball. No, actually, on that play, he did exactly the right thing because there's a player outside waiting for him outside the tackle. I'm looking at the play right now on the second
John
one.
just called it up, David. I don't have trouble with.
Yeah,
what he
because
did.
Maybe I didn't see it on my screen because I think I was watching that part of it on my phone.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it right now. Number 37, who I believe is that Quantez Stiggers, the Jets corner. I don't recall, but he's sitting there and he actually makes the tackle on Singletary from the outside of the formation.
Yep.
So he tries to hit it right outside the tight end, inside of that cornerback, and the cornerback happens to make a really good tackle there. And I think what you're counting on too, David, when you're at the goal line like that, is that if you run into a small little crease, you're expecting your offensive line to get a little bit of push, where you only need to get a yard.
Yeah.
So once you start bouncing outside behind the line of scrimmage, you're going to risk losing yards there too. And the last thing you want to do is turn a 2nd and goal on the 1 and turn it into a 3rd and 3. Because then you take the quarterback sneak off the table. You're taking a lot of your plays off the table if you're in a 3rd and goal at the 3 rather than a 3rd and goal at the 1. So I think that's why you're always going to have guys kind of plunge there rather than bounce, because the last thing you want to do is get the ball outside the 1-yard line when you take that quarterback sneak off the table.
Remember, if there's a doubt at that part of the field, you're better to try to burrow than you are to try to dance. Don't want to be dancing.
When I played offensive tackle, the back always scored because of how glued
Of course they did, because you made the right block.
That's right. So anyway, quick things. I just want to say I love Olszewski, man. I want this guy on the 53 so badly. He reminds me of Meggett and
David. He's McConkey. He's Phil McConkey.
And McConkey, yes, that's who's the name I was trying to come up with. But I love this guy. I mean, sometimes I think you just got to go with a guy that you feel is the best football player. But that's. I also love Chapman more than Nacho. That's me. I think Chapman has a nice upside, and I've just never been all that impressed with Nacho. But that's me.
Nacho will be on the 53-man roster.
Yeah, he'll be here. There's a lot of intangibles that Nacho brings, and he's really very well liked within the building.
And I think the coaches see him as being very reliable.
Yeah. And just by the way, Olszewski, he was out there when the Giants grabbed him a couple of years ago, and then he got hurt, and then he was out there again, and nobody grabbed him. David, I think Olszewski comes back to the practice squad. I don't think he gets claimed.
Well, that'd be useful. So, I want to hit very quick things. One is I'm not going to predict wins because I think what we're going to do week after week after week is we're going to worry everybody. Nobody is going to look past the Giants anymore. And that's, to me, that's what I want. It's like if you do that, we're going to win our share of close games unless we have terrible injuries. But and just the last thing, there's a lot of chatter about that Dart has online and Twitter and stuff, that Dart is showing himself to be better than we thought out of the gate, and does that open up a opportunity to maybe trade Winston to a quarterback-hungry team, a.k.a. the Saints or something like that. My thought is this. Wait till the trade deadline. If we're marching and we still got if DeVito's still in the picture somehow, Dart's in the picture, if we're winning games, and the coaches decide that if something happens with Russell Wilson, that we can keep going the way we're going with Dart and Tommy, then wait till then and trade them for some good draft capital to the team desperate for a game-ready quarterback. And, I like Winston, but I don't want to trade him before we get into the season because we don't know what we're dealing with yet. So
thank you, David.
My thought on
Fair enough.
Appreciate the call, my friend. Based on what Brandon Brown said yesterday, it does not sound like the Giants have any interest in moving Jameis Winston. So
they're not shopping him. No, it doesn't sound like it at all. And quite frankly, isn't that the way we've always said it was going to be?
Hey, look, if someone calls up and blows you away, you always have to listen.
It's got to be a Godfather offer. You do your due diligence. You answer the phone.
And by the way, when you say Godfather offer, you don't, you're never going to get. But if you get like a 3 or a 4 or something like that, that would, for a backup quarterback, that is a Godfather offer.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get that.
No, I don't think so either.
But do your due diligence. If the phone rings, you pick it up, you have the quick conversation, and then you find out, hey, thanks but no thanks, unless they blow you away. And that goes for almost everybody on this team. John, I can honestly tell you, there are very, very few players on this roster who are untouchable.
Yeah, I'm going to mimic Brian Dable here because I think this is not coach talk. I think this is real when Brian Dable says this. Jackson Dart has done everything they've asked him to do. He's steadily improved. We saw a bunch of, in the spring, Paul, interceptions. You're like, ooh, boy, those are rough throws, where he's just throwing it right to the defense. Those have largely disappeared in the summer. We've not seen those over the course of training camp in August. Mm-hmm. And I think we've seen him be more consistent with his accuracy. We've seen him make quicker decisions where he's getting the ball out faster. But I also think, and Mike Kafka talked about it this week when he talked to the media, that they have customized their game plans for the quarterbacks. And what they've been asking Jackson Dart to do is stuff that they think he'll be good at, which is why when you say he's good at the things we're asking him to do, I think that is not a throwaway line. I think it's a very purposeful line.
Yes.
And I'll say, and I wrote this on Cover 3, so it's not like I'm surprising people if you've read it. As great as Jackson Dart was in the second preseason game, look, 14 of 16, a couple of touchdowns, it's as efficient as you can be. His average depth of target in the game was 4 yards, and 80% of his passing yards came on run after catch. He completed 2 passes that traveled more than 5 yards in the air. What they asked him to do, he did really well, but this was not them giving him full control of an NFL-style offense and telling him to drop back, read the defense, and go through 3 or 4 progressions and get the ball out on a deep pass down the field. That's not what it was, which, by the way, is fine. You want to build his confidence. You want to do what the quarterback's good at. And I've seen some of the videos out there. I've seen what people on ESPN have said. I've seen what other analysts have said. Jackson Dart is not going to start the season as the starter. Period. Stop. I don't care if he plays tomorrow night and throws 4 touchdown passes, 50 yards each, and he completes 200 yards and a quarter a play. He's not the starter week 1. It's not happening. So they have a plan to develop him. They're developing him. They'll give him more and more as the season goes along, and when he's ready, he's ready. And I know fans kind of roll their eyes at the whole Russell Wilson thing, But when I tell you folks that this team is completely bought into him as their leader, I mean it. This team believes in him. They want him to be their leader and their starting quarterback. Now, we'll see what the results look like. That ultimately is going to trump everything else. No question. But they're going to give Russell Wilson every single opportunity and then some because of the confidence that these players have in him and how he's developed as the leader of this team and frankly of the franchise right now to be the starting quarterback. And that's what it's going to be.
His influence has helped raise the level of every unit on this team to this point. If it continues into the regular season, you can be darn well sure they'll do everything they can to allow him to succeed.
And I think he helps a lot of the other groups, especially a wide receiver group with a young guy like Malik Neighbors. I think he's a good influence on him. I think he's a good influence on, Theo Johnson, a young tight end. This is a young roster still.
The running backs.
How about the offensive line?
Some of those guys
working with them.
No doubt.
John Michael Schmitz. He just instills a level of confidence, I think. And Brian Dable's talked a lot about player-driven leadership. That starts with the quarterback and Russell Wilson. And again, we were here for Eli Manning, Paul. He was a lead-by-example guy. He did not infest the rest of the locker room the way we've seen Russell Wilson do it since he's gotten here.
Russell's constantly texting guys at other positions all the time. That's kind of different.
And the guys are buying into it.
Yeah, they are.
They are. So, just something to keep in mind. And I know our one of the people have talked a lot about that online. I know David mentioned that. So, I just wanted to put that out there. I know we've been saying this all spring and summer. To me, it just hasn't changed for me.
No, it hasn't changed for the Giants.
I know, and
that's the most important part of this.
And that's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah. We've been here every day during the entire offseason. We understood exactly what they were doing, and we've never wavered from that, and that's the way that this road has been designed to go. No matter what anybody outside the building says, that's the way it is. This map has been written. It's been drawn. And until some other dramatic circumstances change it, they're going to follow the map.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I probably feel better about Jackson Dart developing into your long-term starter now than I did when they drafted him. Because I feel like we have seen steady improvement since he's gotten here, and I've seen enough from him physically up close and personal where I think, all right, I think this can work. But, look, there's a long way to go here. I mean, Kevin Clark put a great tweet up. He was interviewing Kyle Brandt, and he went back, and, you go back, either this just Giant-wise, because he was kind of saying the thing I do. You can go back and find some of the quarterbacks in this league that have become punchlines have had awesome preseason games.
Yeah.
All right? Again, Daniel Jones not a punchline, but his first preseason with the Giants was spectacular. It was great. He went back and he pulled it up, and he tweeted out the video on Twitter. People raving about Nathan Peterman's preseason before he was named starting quarterback and how awesome it was. Their preseason games with simplified game plans against simplified defenses. Would you rather have him do better than do poorly? Absolutely. But it does not mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things.
I was talking to an independent scout who is now retired, but he did a lot of years in the league. And I was on the phone with him yesterday. And he goes to me, wow, Dart. And he was trying to bait me into glowing about the quarterback. He knows I'm always a glass half full guy. Everybody who knows me that way.
Three quarters full.
Okay, whatever.
Overflowing.
So he's trying to bait me. And
erupting.
and I said to him, I said, you know what I feel? I feel about Dart exactly how I feel about this entire Giants team. Right now, they've shown us that they can be really good checkers players. Let's see what happens when they have to play chess.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I'll buy that.
And he goes, that's a good, and he said, that's a really good way to put it, because I was afraid you were going to say something else. And I said, no, they've mastered checkers. They're really good checker players. This is not chess. I'm not saying they can't play chess, and I'm not saying they can't be good at chess, but they haven't played chess yet.
Or you can say that they've dominated AAA. Well, now the major leagues start in September.
Fine. That'll work too. For you baseball fans out there, that'll work too. The point is, make the analogy that you will. There is another step here. Another person asked me, and I was saying they've passed the PSAT, but they haven't passed the SAT.
Oh, that's another good one.
Right? That's
like
another one. And
they dominated NBA Summer League, which is great.
Yes, Knicks fan. We know that.
We're in all the sports.
And you know what? There have been years where I actually reveled in Knicks Summer League wins because they were that bad.
Oh, do you remember that? Do you remember that like 34-point game for Kevin Knox in his Summer League debut?
Yes, I do.
I was dumb enough to get suckered into that one.
I know. The point is, there is a significant test to go, not only for Jackson Dart, but for this entire Giants roster that they have not taken yet. We have not seen it yet. So that particular grade is to be determined. It's incomplete. And until we get to that point, it makes no sense for any critic to bash this team or for any proponent to tell you that it's more than what it is. How's that for being fair?
The rehearsals and dress rehearsals have been great. Guess what? The curtains haven't opened yet.
That too. Hey, a Broadway analogy on this side of the Hudson River. That's pretty good.
I'm trying to get as many different feels as we can here. All right, let's go to Mike in Brooklyn. He's up next. Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Where in Brooklyn you at, Mike?
Canarsie.
Canarsie, man. All right, cool. What do you got?
Well, you guys just answered a YouTube question about JMS, so I'm going multimedia today. So
no, that's great. What else you got?
My question is, if you're Joe Shane and you have somebody spoke about Micah McFadden before, and you got a contract coming up on him and also Bellinger, two day three players who have contributed a lot to the team during these last 3 years and hopefully this year. How hard is it going to be for him to negotiate? If these guys don't re-sign and they're outrageous steals for where they were picked and how they're playing, how tough would that be for Joe Shane if you could put his hat on? And I'll get off the phone and listen to your answer. Thank
you, Mike. Well, I mean, when you're making those decisions after the year, you're already going to kind of know your status moving forward.
Yeah.
At that point, either you're heading into your final year of a contract, you no longer have a job, or you've been extended. One of those three things would have happened at that point already.
Mm-hmm.
When you're making those decisions in March or, right after the combine, right in the middle of March when free agency takes place. In terms of doing it before then, look, Joe Shane is a very measured guy, okay? So for me, knowing Joe the way I think I do, I don't think he's going to allow the outside pressures. Well, he was a draft pick. Don't you think you have to pay him?
It's not him.
I just don't see him operating that way, to be totally honest with you.
I think the linebacker spot right now would be one, if you wanted to kind of pair Bellinger and McFadden together and say, well, which guy are you more likely to extend at some point? I'm going to say McFadden. He's been healthier. He has shown a steady improvement in play each and every year.
Well, he's your full-time starter.
And he's a full-time starter. Bellinger's a number 2 tight end who has been set back by some injuries and had some inconsistencies. And quite frankly, depending upon how many of the tight ends the Giants are able to keep on the practice squad this year, it means that your tight end position also has some depth and possible development, like Fedoni, who, by the way, I think the Giants really like, but I don't see how he makes the 53.
I think he's a guy that could get claimed if you let him go.
I don't know that he does, because in the games, I don't think he's shown enough.
But he's a draft pick this year.
I'm going to say he's got to get through the game healthy first on Thursday, is what I'm going to say about Fedoni.
Let me ask you this. If both guys are healthy, who's more than likely to get to the practice squad, Dulcich or Fedoni?
Dulcich.
I agree with you.
But I don't know that both guys will be healthy by Friday morning. In any event, I just think that, you got to take all that stuff into consideration. And if Fedoni is part of the prospect list that you believe is going to be a future pro and a legit player, it does make it easier to let Bellinger walk after the season.
True. All right, let's go to Jamal in Dallas. He's up next. Jamal, what's going on?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
We're good, dude. What do you got?
So, my question to y'all, what is the difference with this preseason than previous seasons? Y'all been there for a very long, long time. I remember I used to call y'all when I lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and that was over 10 years ago. So,
wow.
Good stuff. Keep up.
Nice.
Keep up the good work. But my question is, what is the difference that y'all seen with this season, this preseason, going into the season than previous years? You know, we're always getting this hype train. I heard y'all talking about the Knicks and all that, and how y'all get hyped when y'all see certain things and this and that, and every season we think we have a chance, right? But y'all being in the building, y'all seeing things, and I'm not talking Super Bowl. I'm just talking about better season, winning, right? Possibly a playoff push. What are y'all seeing, and what are y'all thinking that has been different from previous years and previous regiment?
I will give you two major things from me, Jabal, and then I'll let Paul give his. I'm just thinking we're going to overlap here. One, I think even though maybe the ceiling is not sky high, I think you have a much higher floor at the quarterback position with what you're going to get out of Russell Wilson. Number one, we just talked about him a second ago. I won't go into that whole spiel again. And then number two, this is as good of a offensive and defensive front in the trenches that I've seen this team have probably since like 2016, 2017 area. Wow. And then to 2017 got hurt a lot. Just in terms of your combination of players on the defensive front and on the edge. And then I think, again, if Andrew Thomas is healthy, and we'll see if he's going to be healthy or not for the start of the regular season, the hopes is that he's going to be ready to go, that I think this offensive line is going to be pretty good. And when I say pretty good, I don't mean like a top 10 group, maybe not even a top 15 group, but they will not be in the bottom quartile of the league, all right? They're going to be around the 19th or 20th best offensive line. And you know what? That's fine. That's good enough to let your offense function. And I think even though they might not have individually dominant players, you have veterans that have now been together for 2 straight years. I think they're going to play well together. I think they're well coached by Carmen Brasillo. So, Jamal, those are the two main things that I would talk about in terms of what I think is a difference for me. And again, we might not see it reflected in the record because the schedule is so tough. But that to me is what I think the difference is. Paul, I'd like to get your take.
I'll give you a third item because I don't want to piggyback off the two things you said because I happen to agree with them. But my third item is one of the tests that I give myself when I look at this team is when you're trying to make those final cutdowns and you look at the last few guys and how many spots on the roster you want to improve on. There have been many times, and I call them placeholders, where the Giants have gone into the final cutdown and they're getting ready for opening day, and you say to yourself, you know what? This starting spot is kind of sketchy. They don't have any backups at this spot. They have no potential answers at this spot. My goodness, the final 6 places on the 53-man roster, these guys are placeholders. They're really just guys. They're nobody that I even think could be potentially part of a winning program. Well, I don't see that anymore. I look at this Giants team, and I feel like they've got 22 solid starters who I'm willing to go into a game with every weekend and believe that they're going to be at least competitive. And we just went through 15 minutes of the back 53. These guys that we were talking about, these guys are better than just guys.
Like, I'll give you an example. I was talking to Andre Patterson when the assistant coaches spoke the other day, Jamal. And I asked him, like, how do you sort through the back end of that defensive line room? I go, do you more worry about just getting the best guys, or you're trying to figure out, all right, well, I want to have a backup nose, I want to have a backup 5 technique, and how do you sort that out? And he basically he said this to me verbatim, that, look, in years past, we've had guys here that are camp bodies, right, that are here just
there
because we need somebody to take
just
reps.
Guys, camp bodies.
He said this basically unprompted from me. He goes, this year, I feel like everybody in my room is a legitimate NFL player. and it's going to be tough to sort through them. So I think I just wanted to kind of back up what Paul said, because one of the assistant coaches on the defensive line said the exact same thing to me.
Just
a couple
a
days
guy
ago.
equals camp bodies. That's the same way of
Right.
saying the same thing. Different way of saying the same thing. And the Giants don't have very many camp bodies who are going to be on this 53, if at all. This team is going to, this 53 is going to be legit.
Okay. And in years past, you felt like our 53.
Oh, absolutely. Look, don't kid yourself.
I mean,
Go
a couple
back to-
years ago, we were claiming 6 guys.
Yeah, and doesn't that tell you everything? That right there, that tells you. Go back to Tom Coughlin's last couple of years here. And I don't want to like dig into the past. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. But go back to Tom Coughlin's last couple of years here. Look at the bottom 6, 7, 8 players on that roster. Honestly, look at those guys and say, do you really want to go into Sunday at 1 o'clock with those guys on your team?
Got you. Okay.
So,
all right, well, I'm hopeful for the season. I mean, I'm not thinking nothing too big, but let's get some good wins, some wins that are unexpected. I mean, the first 2 games. I mean, I'm looking. I would love to go 2-0 against Washington and Dallas, but I'm okay with 1-1. We just can't go 0-2.
I totally am with you.
I mean, it's essential. And this goes back to one of the previous calls. And Jamal, appreciate it, man. Good stuff. Always good to hear from you. Thanks for being such a loyal listener. We really thank you for that. You got to figure out a way to win one of those first 2 games.
Got to.
You have to.
Got to.
The last thing you want to do is be staring at Patrick Mahomes
At
0-2.
On a short week.
That is not what you want to be doing.
No. Nope. No.
And by the way, your 3rd division game's in Philadelphia. So do you want to start 0-3 in the division? Look, if you start 0-3 in the division, I'm not going to say your season's over, but you're in a very, very tough situation.
Those first 3 games, the 2 divisional road games and the Thursday game against Kansas City, even though it's home, to me, that's the worst landmine that the league could have given the Giants in terms of the variable things that they could do.
Could have been worse. It could have been worse. You know, it could have been worse. One of those first 2 games was against Philadelphia.
Yes.
No,
right.
I'm not being honest.
You're right. That would have been worse. Let's just say they gave them a landmine. That would have been an atomic bomb. This is just a landmine. Okay? This is just a landmine. But because we know who they're going to play. We know who the home and road teams are going to be. In terms of variables, this was a variable that the league really kind of stuck a fork in their stomach and said, hey, how do you like that? What are you going to do?
All right, so I looked this up, and if the Google AI overview on the Google search feature is wrong, I apologize. It usually is pretty terrible, so I'm taking a risk here. But 2022, Joe Shane's first year here,
yes,
they claimed Pinnock, Nick McLeod, Justin Lane, 3 DBs. They also claimed Jack Anderson, and then later that week, they did Tyree Phillips. So that's 5 guys that they claimed that year in Joe Shane's first year here.
And Pinnock was easily, by far, the highest quality player on that list.
And Nick McLeod ended up playing a big role that year, too.
Nick McLeod, I loved him as a special teams guy, but in terms of overall team value, Pinnock was the best player.
He played corner that year.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I know.
Let me see if I can look at the,
Pinnock was still the best player of all those.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Players.
I agree with that. Let me see if I could find there's any other.
But think
Giants
about it.
here. Let me see.
Think about it. They thought all of those players were going to be upgrades to the extent that they felt they had to claim them. Well, that's not happening this year. It's just not. As we said before, maybe you'd be looking for a veteran corner. Maybe you'd be looking for another DT that you might upgrade. You know, maybe a safety. I mean, possibly. And it's going to have to be the right guy for them to take any one of those 3 spots the day after the final cuts. I don't think they're like banging the drums, you know, looking for a slew of guys. That's not the case anymore. This roster's too good.
I agree with you. So I think that's a good sign. You want these decisions to be tough.
Yeah.
You want it be painful to let some of these guys go. And a little birdie told me this, that basically over the last 3 years, around 30 or so players get claimed off the initial waiver cut. So maybe, it's equivalent of one guy from each team, and you'll probably get more than one from a couple teams. So there'll be some teams where nobody gets claimed from the guys that you cut. The Giants have not had many guys claimed over the years from guys that they've cut. It's happened once or twice, but
not many.
They have not had a ton.
Not many.
So just keep that in mind as we move forward, and we play the game on Thursday, and then they have 4 days to figure out who's going to be let go next Tuesday at 4 o'clock when the cut deadline comes. So just something to keep in mind moving forward. All right, guys, Giants Little Podcast. Joe, check it out. Giants.com, Giants app, Giants podcast, or any podcast platform, I should say. Giants YouTube channel. Great interviews up there. You have Paul's interviews with, oh boy, who were the two?
Was that Nixon
Two
Baker?
alumni. Yeah, Stephen Nixon, Hakeem.
The receivers.
Hakeem Nixon, Stephen Baker. Go check that out. The most recent one, I interviewed Sam Schwartzstein, who is the Amazon Prime Vision host. On their alternate cast. Giants are on Prime TV on Thursday with Amazon against the Patriots.
True. And also locally, Channel 4. They pick up the Amazon cast.
Make sure you go check that out. But it was a really fun talk about AI in football and how that's kind of impacting not just their broadcast, but also coaching and stuff like that. And then we're going to have a bunch of Giant Huddles coming your way next week, previewing the season. We'll have a special reaction to the roster when that comes out on Tuesday at 4. So go subscribe, find it, Giants YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out. The season, of course, is underway. I know a lot of Giant fans are excited. You want tickets, a season ticket membership, individual games, go to giants.com/tickets. If you become a season ticket member, you can not only see all the games, but you get special benefits, not just on game days. A lot of fun stuff. Go check it out, giants.com/tickets. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. Thanks to Johnny Mack for running the show today. Tomorrow, there is no Big Blue Kickoff Live. We will be back on Friday at 2 o'clock. Same bat time, same bat channel. That's Dottino and Meadow. And then the plan is for next week on Monday, we're going to return to 12:30, and that'll be our time throughout the regular season as the team goes back to a more typical practice schedule to start the year.
So invite us for lunch.
So, yeah, we'll be with you during your lunch hour right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk again. Thank you to Johnny Mack. We'll see you tomorrow on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, or on Friday, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants, right here in the Hackensack Community Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. Enjoy the game tomorrow. We'll see you on Friday.